Okay.
Right. Mr. Chairman, there's 5 that we could find that have asked for funding, and the first one's the one Councillor Dick has briefly spoke to, which is Film Hawke's Bay. So they've asked for 10,000.
There's also the Helicopter Rescue Trust.
Yeah, we've missed the Helicopter Rescue Trust.
Yep.
Yeah, but okay. Wairau Destination Playground, which is number 11. There wasn't a verbal submission on that. They've asked for 100,000 Enviro Schools, plus 2,000 over 18,000 already provided for in the annual plan. Walkway vegetation clearance at upstream Wairau, 91,000, and an oral submission or a verbal submission on Pure Advantage to do with Hawke's Bay economic study of 12,500. The helicopter one is in there as well, although it's actually in.
It's already provided for.
It's already provided
my
for. It's already
mistake.
provided
This
for.
is all new funding, new additional funding.
This is a.
Can I just add, in terms of the upstream Wairau, I believe that is mostly tree clearance, and that we have a scheme fund already in place to deal with that, as I've outlined.
Yeah, that's good.
And just to add to that, was the discussion that's already taken place in a couple of forums, Mr. Adey, most of that, in my reckoning, is covered, actually, by us in regard to planning that open space, to vegetation removal, etc. I believe the discussions I've had with both Wairoa District Council and yourself, we've got pretty much all that in hand. Would that be a fair comment?
The upstream Wairau one, yes, not the playground.
The upstream Wairau, not the playground, yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
And councillors may be aware of some of these allocations, but it's probably good to put them all up on the board because you've got to look through the plan to find them. We have a strategic partnership allowance for iwi, which is about 116,000. Other strategic alliances, and they've listed down there for you to just familiarise yourself with. Primary reduction sector, 10,000. Massey Alliance is 45,000 gone into that, or proposed to go into that. Other research allowances 15, and the shared service Hawke's Bay LAS 20,000. There's a helicopter trust donation, that's 10, which is in there. Tomato Park annual contribution of 31,000, and then Enviro Schools currently at 18. So that gives you an idea where our targeted assistance is for the moment. Perhaps we then just go back to the ones that are requested, really. I don't.
Should we quickly talk about them while they're all there in one hit? Well, you had another comment to make, didn't you, about what does an extra $10,000 look like on the rate?
Well, I did, but now I've seen that. I've got here. It is a possible approach. Obviously, you can remove one of the ones we've got in the current annual plan and put another one in which case there'd be no extra funding required. But if you wanted to keep everything you've got in there and add another request, then following along Councillor Belford's idea of what impact would any increase have on rates, and certainly in regard to discretionary targeted assistance, then for every 10,000 in it would have an increase in rates potentially of 0.07%.
Or you could decline.
That's on total rate. Yeah, on total rate. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? What is the provision in the budget at present for the contingency budget?
50,000.
50,000. Can I, what's the word? Pre-warn, that's not the word. That I wish to resolve that be increased to 150,000 on a one-off basis for this year. Won't do it now. Increase the contingency budget to 150,000 for one year, hopefully from non-rating sources, because I believe that we're going to incur some costs that are not budgeted for at the moment on the decision that we made on rail and the study on the corridor. It's not asking for an appropriation there, but it's asking for funding to be there and to be able to be called upon if needed.
Yeah, I've got one too. You go first.
I'm finding this a little challenging While I'm normally used to dealing with budgets, not dealing with this little space over here and that little space over there and some other space, we don't get a coherent package here. And I see that there's some carryovers here. Well, I don't agree with all the carryovers.
Too late.
It's
Done.
Oh, you've done already?
Already done.
Bugger. I bet you're all soft too.
We fought on the smallest one.
Did you? Yes. You've endorsed a lot of them, have you?
Well done.
Yes. Well, you bunch of softies.
Well, we were here, Councillor. It's one of the challenges of being away. Councillor Belford.
Soft.
I actually just wanted to. I have a similar situation, so I also wanted to know when the appropriate time would be to raise, whether it's in the form, as Councillor Dick did, a contingency amount, or whether it's an amount added to an appropriate part of the budget. I don't know, but I have the same question as far as if we were to choose to act with alacrity on the recommendation of the parliamentary commissioner, we would be moving briskly to initiate a plan change that addressed oil and gas drilling. And I would want to, and I have a motion to that effect basically at some point, but would want to be confident that we had somewhere in the budget funds to trigger that process in the coming fiscal year. So if it needed an appropriation, I'd want to be in a position to offer a motion to that end, or be reassured that it was there.
So there is a decision that's coming up around oil and gas policy development. So there's potential for you to put that in. And at that point, we're really talking here about external funding requests by and large, and trying to capture those.
So let's deal with them and then come back to Councillor Dick's issue and your issue. Yeah. Okay, so let's get back to this. Good thinking. Okay, so let's go back. Do you want to go back, deal with them on that slide? Oh, there we go. One forward,
Yeah, that
one
one.
back.
Yeah.
So it looks like the upstream wire or walkway vegetation deal is pretty much covered. Correct? Okay. Wire or destination playground, you would have noted in the submission that Hawke's Bay Regional Council viewed that thing favourably. Can I just explain that? I had a conversation after an annual plan submission, what would have been LTP 2 years ago, annual plan, whatever, at the council up there. The proposal they put up about this playground was actually a nautical theme, and it sort of explained the history of the port of Wairoa and everything else. And I said, well, wow, that's great. You know, we don't tell our stories well enough in our towns, in my view. This is nothing like that at all. This is just a bald handout, give us 100,000, we'll tell you how we're going to spend it, sort of deal. So just for clarity, that's not the conversation I had. And it was a very low-key conversation with a submitter, not with the council at all. So just wanted to be clear on that. I was not raising false hope, and nor would I. I tend to agree with Councillor Dick on this issue that Wairoa District Council, and they are looking at this. I mean, this is part of their provision in their annual plan process, which is about to kick off. Well, they're open for submissions at the moment. There was also talk about with the mayor, and he needs to progress this. Obviously, that's his deal, but getting a partner to help build a playground, i.e. one of the forestry companies up there, and there has been discussions around that, my understanding. So my view is I would not support that in that form, the $100,000, but that's where I'm coming from. So if that's any help, Councillor Barker.
Notwithstanding that I've missed a part of this, I still want to come back to my point, is that I don't like this process whereby we consider one element of the budget, then make decisions about that, then go on to the other element. I think any of these issues here should put up line by line with every other issue that we're going to fund, and we should see whether we would fund that or fund something else. This strikes me as a sort of like a cost-plus approach in the bag, and I feel this is not a good approach. Well, cost-plus, and we accepted these are the costs we're going to impose on the ratepayers, and you can come along and we agree on these other ones and put another pile on top. I think everything should be up for grabs. And if something is in here, then it has to rate itself as more important than everything else we've agreed to beforehand. I don't accept that. So just make it clear here, I don't agree with these things.
But nothing is adopted until the regional council meeting at the end of the month, and in fact everything is up for redebate. People feel so inclined then.
I will.
When you can see the whole picture.
Anyway, do we wish to go through these, or should we go back to the the paper? Oh, sorry.
Is the Enviro Schools request for 2,000? Can that be done within their budget or not?
That is currently sits within Project 895, which is community engagement budget. And so it would mean an increase of $2,000 in one of the lines there, and that's roughly a $500,000 project total. So, yeah, I've talked to Drew about that. It would be additional funding. That budget is very tight.
And they manage to sneak it up virtually every year.
That's how they're doing it now. The Enviro schools you're talking about, yeah. They used to come and ask for big chunks. Now they quietly sneak in and ask for a little bit more.
And they also have
clever.
it leveraged against a local trust. That
Yeah. Well, there's a local trust that they go dollar for dollar.
There's a local trust that provides 1.5 times that amount to the founder, to this project within Hawke's Bay.
Councillor Belford.
So are we now speaking to or for or against?
No, I think this was just a bit of a opening us up, understanding it. Now let's go back to the paper and work our way through.
So number 5.
So we go back to number 5, which is Film Hawke's Bay, on page
11.
11. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think the problem with their approach is that they're going to each council cap in hand, and they may get support from some, they may not. It's not a coherent approach to funding, and I have a feeling that it would be tempting to do so, and out of economic development, and maybe increase that rate a bit. I'm not sure that you're going to get value. You don't get value from these things unless people are funded properly. Otherwise, you're just funding them to fail.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
I'm opposed to this, and I'm opposed to it for a very good reason. This council would not vote $10,000 to film itself, to put on the website, to tell people here we are. And
I agree. Let's have the debate and then make the decision. I agree. So you're happy to move no change to the plan. You're happy to second that, Councillor Barker. So you wait your turn. Councillor Scott, you wish to speak?
Mr. Chairman, this group approached us a year ago with a very good presentation of what they've done, and I have no doubt that they do add value to the economy, but I think they need to source that funding through various industry sources. It's very tempting for everybody here who comes in and wants to set up a business, which they think is good for the Bay, to actually come and ask the regional council to fund it. I do think it's inappropriate for them to approach all councils. They should actually consider what they're doing to the ratepayers there, and it was all very well for them to say $60,000 all up for Napier Hastings and whatever it was for regional council is little to ask the ratepayers for. It actually has quite a significant impact on the rates, and that's the way it is. We don't actually have a free-flowing pot at the time. I think they do an extremely good job. I'd like to encourage them. We've already had a very sound debate earlier this year in the workshop around the economic development, and we didn't increase that funding at all at the end of the day, much as we would have liked to. So I think at this stage it would be inappropriate to put more funding in there.
I agree with that, and the other point I'd make, just to remake my point, that here we are, we've declined to spend $10,000 filming ourselves so the public can see what we do, and when people come along and ask us to give them $10,000 to go and film other things which has nothing to do with our core business. Our core business is running this council and be communicative with our own people. When we've done that, come back and talk to me. The second point I make about this is that the people we represent, many of them have had something like a 50 cents an hour pay rise because we're all on the minimum wage. We've got a very low pay area here. And I think we have to be very mindful of our costs. And we have to make sure that we, whatever we put in addition into the rates is fully justified. And I don't see any justification for this. This is non-core business.
Further speakers? Councillor Balfour.
I'm going to support the motion, but I'm going to speak against some of the rationale that's been given for it. I see this as economic development work that over the 4 or so years, 5 years maybe, that this organization has existed on a shoestring has delivered quite measurable benefit to the community, and it ought to be looked at alongside other expenditures that we're making. We heard, for example, that they basically have gotten zero support or response from Tourism Hawke's Bay, which does a very analogous thing but less expertly. They invite folks in, pay their way in and so forth to show writers and others around Hawke's Bay and sell the bay on that basis. That's effectively what these folks do with, I would argue, for dollar spent, equal or greater result. So I'll support the resolution mainly because I think this ought to be looked at in a broader context, long-term plan-wise, as to what kind of investments are we interested in making in economic development. So this is a puny one compared to investing in a railroad or a dam or other things that we consider to be investing in for economic development, but it is no less an economic development activity in my mind. The fact that they go to multiple councils is no different than, let's say, proponents of the dam going to multiple councils for their funding. And I, as an observer of councils over the last 7 or 8 years, could give you dozens of examples of community groups who have had to trudge around council to council to council because they do something that crosses jurisdictional lines and beg for little pots of money. There's nothing new about that. It's the way we fund museums. It's the way we fund sports parks. It's the way we fund everything around here. So to single these folks out as somehow violating a principle of prudent government finance is ludicrous.
Councillor Pipe.
I'm going to support the resolution, but I do have concerns about Film Hawke's Bay and about some of their ethos that they're not allowed to charge for their services. I really find that quite strange, because they are providing a service to film companies, to advertisers, to provide and to search out sets and places where they can film, and to coordinate a lot of that the work that has to be done around that. And yet, I've heard them present a number of times in different ways. They're apparently not allowed to charge for that. I find that quite odd, and I see that most probably as a way, but apparently it's around New Zealand they're not allowed to. Really odd.
Yeah. I have a quick comment too. I actually support everything that Councillor Balfour said. These are really good people and just doing a really good job, but we just can't fund everything, and I think probably they need to get their funding from elsewhere, but it is a small amount of money in the big scheme of things, and I would waver on that, but I think that we do need to draw the line at times. Also his comment about them touting their wares at all the different councils, well, that's exactly what everyone does, of course, and it's ridiculous to single them out. So I will be supporting it reluctantly. I mean, they're good people, but we can't fund everyone.
Who? Should be concentrating here, Councillor Barker. Okay, mover, seconder, wish to sum up?
Nobody doubted that they're very good people, and I think they do an excellent job. The point about going to different councils isn't touting. It's a case of it's the same ratepayers being charged out of each pocket. And the thing is, the impact is cumulative on the ratepayer and has to be taken into account.
Put that motion, then all those in favour please say Aye and against. Carried. Thank you. So now we go to page, I think,